an observation on that is just that much like when we talked about your big decision not to move the family and take
Yeah.
go for the next rung on the ladder of the career because you knew what was important to you, you knew your values. Much like that, I think the way you spoke about winning the lottery, you've won it so many times already. I think someone can still be in that position and not
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
and still are wanting. It's almost like a sort of social disease of our time, I think. Is we think we need more to be happy.
What is that expression? FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yes, FOMO,
And
yeah.
I don't really, I don't really suffer from that, but I know plenty of people who do. There are people who are. It's just the next place to go, and I'm going to go there, and as if they're missing something. I've been around the world. I've not been to every continent. I've not been to any country in Africa or South America, but I've been to North America. I've been to the Far East. I've been to what was the USSR. I've been all over Europe. I've been to Australia, Singapore, you name it, Vietnam. I've been India, China. I mean, how many more places do I need to see? And it's not because I've lost curiosity, but
Yeah.
at all. But I have got around and I've seen a great deal, and it's great. So, and I would go to some of these places. I would go to some of these places again. Anne's not so keen, so I don't suppose that will happen. But I do know that I'm lucky like that, and I don't have a FOMO about it. Whatever. So I guess I'm lucky like that. I don't have a whatever unsatisfied itch that I keep having to scratch.
I've got some specific questions from Stephen, which I didn't include in that because I wanted to keep you on your life story and get those things under the belt, and also maybe see what your spontaneous reaction is. There's just a couple here. You've kind of talked about a few of them, like legacy was something he specifically asked about. He wanted to know about your life as a child, and then the fun and the anecdotes, which you provided a plenty. This is another one that he asked specifically. It was around, as you've got older and learnt know yourself better, what have you learned about yourself, or what did you wish you knew before? It's quite a tricky one.
When you're in your 30s, pushing your career, family coming
Yeah.
through, there's a driving force that's almost uncontrollable to try and push your career and everything else and work like hell. Um, and you have to, and you're trying to get promotions and so on. Um, One of the things I had realized is that certainly at that time, everything seems so important. Absolutely everything. And if you don't get this done by that deadline, or you don't get it done by that time, or you don't, whatever it happens to be, it's dreadful. And people my age, it's an obvious thing. We do realize that that isn't the case. Very little is that important. It moves on. And and what teaches you that, of course, is as you get older and you come across people who work like hell and so on, and then they've died. I've known people who work's killed them, basically, either through a stroke or a heart attack, or they've caught some terrible disease that might not be through work, but they kind of still try to push themselves through work. There's a school near where we live. It's kind of been knocked down, but there was a headmistress there, and she got cancer. And she just kept pushing and pushing and pushing herself into work and so on. And eventually she died. She was forgotten in no time. The school's been demolished. Hardly anybody knows the school ever existed. Next to nobody knows she ever existed. Yet she thought it was all so important. That's not to say that you haven't got to be professional. You've got to be professional. That's for sure. But everybody lets it go beyond that, and too much beyond that. It's not just being driven, it's being obsessed, really. And it's not healthy. I really don't think it's healthy. And I've come across too many people with breakdowns and, as I said, illnesses that lost track of that, really. And push yourself when you're ill and you shouldn't, and you should rest up and so on. That's certainly one thing a big thing that I've learned. Again, when you're younger, other people's opinions seem to matter to you a bit more than when you're older. Some older people get a bit glib and they say, I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. Well, I think they've gone too far the other way. You still got to to be cognizant of that. But there is some truth in that. You don't have to be looking to please people, all the time. As often is the case, as I see often the case with younger people. Um, just try and get it a bit more balanced, really, and uh, really only get bothered by people that are very close to you if there's something that's upsetting. The other thing that I've learned since he's asked, and it is an age thing, really. Uh, I always dislike it when when somebody's died, um, and they say, "Oh well, yeah, but we've got to move on," and I really dislike that expression. Yeah, if you really love somebody and you lose them, you never get over that. That's it for the rest of your life. You've got to accept that. And there is no way that you move on. You move forward, but there is a difference. You don't move on. And when people say they do, it, to me, it's a bit lazy thinking, really. Or, you weren't maybe that as close to that person as you make out to be, and so on. I'm not saying you go back to the Victorian times where you grieved for a year or you wore black all the time, but there was something in that. It's too easy to say we got to move on and take it from there. Now, obviously, when it's family, close family, and you love somebody, you do realize, and that doesn't change. But for others, people are forgotten, far too easily. I don't like that expression. Move forward, fine, but not move on. And the other thing, or two other things really. One, people need to grieve properly. When somebody they really love close to them goes, you've got to grieve properly. That essentially means cry. And I know when my father died, I was 38, he was 60. My brother cried a hell of a lot. I didn't. It was classic British stiff upper lip. I'm the man. I'm in charge here. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to break down. Um, and it was a bad thing to do. It was one of the worst things because I was ill some time later. My wife always says it was down to the death of my father, and I didn't let the emotions go. I didn't let them show. Um, and I learned and realized then, at the age of 40, I suppose, how important it is to show some emotions. Not to be bloody ridiculous about it, but there are certain natural emotions, and crying is a healing process. It absolutely is a healing process, and you've got to do that. So I've learned that. Some people, I suppose, they grieve more naturally than others. Others, I was conditioned to the stiff upper lip thing, and to be strong for everybody else, and so on. And it didn't do me any favors. The other thing, on a kind of slightly lighter note, is is the use of the word hate. The use of the word hate. I nearly said I hate the use of the word hate. Because which maybe I do, but I dislike it. And people, I dislike it when they say, "Oh, I hate the French. I hate the Americans. I hate Manchester United. I hate this. I hate that." It's such a strong, aggressive word. Is hate. It should not be used the way we do it. Just back off. Say you dislike. You're not partial to. You're not keen on. But don't just sling out that word hate. There's too much hate in the world as it is without hating right, left, and centre. Never mind for all the kind of dreadful things that go on in this world, which are based on hate. But that's just, I'm not going to come across anybody else that thinks the same as me on that one. And I try very hard never to use the word hate, even in that context of hating the word hate. Nice bit of philosophy there, really.
Yeah, I've thought about that one as well. I agree with you. I think when if I use the word hate, I then realize it's just me needing to express a strong emotion, and I think as a guy, or back to your previous point, we sometimes don't let ourselves express big emotions. It depends what cultural social background you came from, but if you're not used to being
Yeah,
American
yeah.
Italian, right? Their emotions come out because it's what happens in the household, that people shout and they have a go. But British, English, Scottish, it's a little bit more kept under that. So whenever I say I hate something, it's always trivial anyway. It's never something, those examples you use. But I think it's because I just need to
No, I mean, you can use the word. You
express
can
myself.
use the
So
word hate, but it's
interesting one.
got to be reserved for the big things, the really big
Yeah, yeah.
things. It's got to be reserved for that, or else it loses meaning. Well, very quickly, you asked me about some place in the south of France, at a bar that my friends and I had been to, and you asked me what the name of the street was. I think I told you it was the Rue de
Yes.
Chéry. It's the Rue de Ferry, F-E-R-Y, the Rue de Ferry. Ferry, not Sherry. I don't know
Okay.
why I want to correct that, but I just felt that I wanted to correct that.
Well, I asked because I just thought if Stephen and Laura are on holiday and they pass it, or in that town, they'll
Well, if
think,
they,
"Oh,
yeah,
let's
no,
go
who
and check
knows?
that
In
out."
20
It'll
years'
be quite
time, if
fun.
they're in Cannes, they'll say, right, because it'll be there,
Yeah.
Rue de Ferry, and all they have to do is
Okay.
walk a couple of 100 yards up on the right hand side. It's not there anymore, the same kind of bar, but they can at least imagine us running down the street to get away from these pimps before we got bloody knifed or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, exactly.
and being taken for American sailors. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I'm not sure where this comes from exactly, but he asked me. I mean, I'm assuming there's something he's seeing in himself that he's not fond of, and he wants to correct it or something. His question was: is there something that you've learned about yourself that you don't like so much? I don't know, a characteristic, and how have you dealt with that?
No, well, I haven't dealt with it. Never have. I do have, despite that stiff upper lip thing that I said earlier on, and that was in a certain context.
Mm,
I do have occasional outbursts of temper, and I don't like that about myself. I don't. I think it's probably healthy, actually, to blow your top every now and again rather than
mm.
keep it in. But I'm not impressed with myself when I have those outbursts. I'm not impressed at all. But they are sometimes a bit difficult to control, and yeah, and it can be because you've stressed at work or whatever. There's something that's causing it. So it doesn't happen normally, but yeah. So I don't like that. On the other side of that coin, I like my sense of humor. I like
Good.
my own sense of humor. I think I've got a sense of humor. I enjoy my sense of humor, and I like it when I see it expressed in any of the family. Not that there's too many like that. I'm more like my granddad, their great grandfather, with his sense of humor. I'm more like my
Uh,
uncle Sidney on my mother's side with his sense of humor. He was an amusing bloke and so on, and he enjoyed a joke and liked it and so on. I'm starting to see it in one or two of the grandchildren, and
well, really lovely.
yeah, it is. I like that. Laura's got a good sense of humor, but I'm starting to see it in some of the grandchildren. When I say a good sense of humor, I mean like mine, like
Yeah, I know.
mine.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean like
That
mine.
strokes the ego.
I mean,
Well, it's funny because actually, when Stephen makes a joke, he'll make it for his own entertainment more than anyone else. And if he catches someone, then it's a bonus. So he's at least got that from you. I don't know what the sense of humor is. I know what his is, but yeah,
yeah, well, I know,
it's very funny.
because I was teasing Anne that she has no sense of humor. It's so on, and the more 'cause something will come on, and she'll just say, "That's just not funny," and I'm like wheeling and rolling about, and the more she emphasizes this, the funnier it is for me that she can't get it. And she says, "Stop laughing! Just stop laughing! It's not funny." And I just think it's absolutely great. And it's like all of us again, like my uncle Sid. I talked to my auntie Bredna and talk about him and what good company he is. And he said, yes, he can be when he wants to be, And
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think I'm maybe a bit like that too. You can't be like that all the time. You can't be Jimmy Tarbuck or whoever some modern stand-up comedian happens to be. Yeah, but when you're in the mood, and I like my sense of humor, and
yeah.
uh,
Very good.
and when I meet my friends, up in the northeast, at least three of us have the same sense of humor. So we're going to have a really good
I think that's
time.
key, isn't it? Surround yourself with people who make you laugh, and you make laugh, and
Oh,
everyone
well,
feels good from it. Yeah,
yeah, one of them is particularly droll, real good dry sense of humor. So, we live off that really. He leads and we spark off from that really. So,
yeah,
yeah, so
that's
I
great.
hope that's answered Stephen's other question.
No,
So,
very good, and I like the other side of the coin. That was good bringing that in.
yeah.
I've got one more, I think, one more from him, and then I've got yeah. There's a few more to go through. He wanted to know about your. I mean, you talked about it's very clear about your level of contentment and the importance of family. There's a question around what your hopes are for the future, and I think that was meant in any sense you want to take it. Like the world, your community, Sheffield, the family. What do you see now in your life, and what do you hope continues and maybe even stops?
Yeah, right. Well, that's a very difficult question because I have learned that how impotent an individual is, or most individuals are, in doing anything in the world. I was pretty political when I was younger, activist, not just party politics. Um, I don't know if Stephen knows, but I got arrested at a demonstration when I was at university. This was an anti apartheid demonstration in Leeds, Wellington Street, Wellington Road. There was a hotel down there, and there was a government minister speaking, and there was a lot of us there, of course, and little placards. Um, and uh, and the reason I got arrested, and this was an eye opener for me, again, political education, and I'm just standing two or three deep with a placard, anti-apartheid, and the crowd moved forward, and they pushed me forward, and I fell into the back of a police officer who turned round and arrested me straight away and threw me into a police van, along with a number of other people. And we were off to jail, and we were in jail for the night. And then we had to appear before court. Now, as far as I was concerned, I was completely innocent. The crowd had gone forward, I think I even probably apologized as I hit the back of him. But he didn't take that into consideration. Anyway, I understood that in the heat of the demonstration. But then when we were in court and we stood up there, these police officers came one after the other and completely lied through their teeth. Completely and utterly lied about what had happened and what we'd done. And they'd been attacked and banged over the head and this kind of thing. And I was astonished, absolutely shocked, because I'd been brought up about policemen are good, policemen are honest, policemen are true. You go to the policeman, this is the person that's really not just a last resort, but pillar of community and everything. And then there are all these bobbies lying through their teeth. And as one or two of the people had told me, don't always believe everything about the police. And there I saw it, like the scales fell from my eyes. I understood the other
Mm,
side of police work, even for
mm,
something as pathetic, as this. Never mind something serious that might go on. And of course, I've seen any number of examples of good work by police over the years, over the decades, and obviously very bad work by police officers over the decades. And therefore, I have a healthy, not disregard, I have a healthy attitude to when I hear things about the police force. Not that we don't need them, of course we do, absolutely vital, etc. But a good deal more realistic, Neil. Really.
mm,
How did
mm.
how did he get into that? Oh, you were asking, yeah.
Like hopes for the future.
Hope
Yeah,
for
you
the
said you.
future. Well, as I said, it's very difficult. Following on from that, you start to realise just how difficult it is for an individual to do anything. That's for sure. Unless you go deep into politics and become leader of a party and you get elected into positions and so on, which I never wanted to do that because actually I couldn't be a politician. Many people said to me, "You should join a political party. You speak well, you have a good attitude to things, you have good values, uh, but you just get corrupted." And I just felt I had a lot more integrity. There were so many things I would not be prepared to say just to follow the party line.
Yeah, yeah,
And although I might vote Labour, like I said to you the other day about council house sales that Margaret Thatcher brought in, I was fully behind that. So I couldn't be party political all the time. There were times when I'd
yeah.
want to sort of say the opposite. And you didn't seem to be able to do that in our system. You know, you had
Yeah.
to be Tory, or you had to be Lib Dem, or you had to be Labour throughout. And
Yeah.
I couldn't cope with that at all. And there's no point saying, well, you should have tried and then you could have changed it. You wouldn't have got elected in the first place. You wouldn't even been able to stand up and get nominated by the local party to be the candidate if you didn't actually jump through the proper hoops.
Yeah.
So you couldn't even get to first base to change anything. So integrity is important to me in people, really is. And you obviously very few politicians you get that in. But I was quite interested in politics in general. I mean, growing up, I remember, a fair number of things. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis in the early '60s. I can still remember coming home and saying to my mother, have the ships turned around yet? Because we all knew, there was this blockade, and once it got past a certain point, then the button was going to be pressed. And I knew what the nuclear bomb was about, even though I was only 11 or 12 or something like that. So, I remember that, and that was very meaningful. I remember Kennedy's assassination, which had an impact on people. Big occasions. I remember the moon landing. Watched that at my girlfriend's house in Norwich and so on, with the parents. And that was a wow, unbelievably wow experience. For me, that wasn't political. It was just amazing. Just it still is to me amazing. I looked at the moon last night as I was driving home from the bar after bowling, and it was dark. The moon was huge, absolutely huge, and bright as a button. And I thought, Jesus Christ, human beings, we've put people on that object there. How fantastic is that? How can human brains figure out how to do that? That's human beings at their best. That technology side of things, we're amazing. Social side, we're still in the caves, but technologically, staggering we are. What we're doing now, staggering to me. So, things like that. I remember vividly the Munich disaster with Manchester United. That had a huge effect on me. Again, coming home from school every day, rushing in to my mother, has Duncan Edwards died? Has Duncan Edwards died? He lived for almost 3 weeks after that crash. He was, big hero. Even though I was Scottish and he was English, like Bobby Charlton, these were great. He survived, but Duncan Edwards. And I remember my mum saying, no, she just took me aside. She says, no, he's passed away, he's died. And I just sat in the corner thinking, Duncan Edwards, he was a mountain of a footballer. Unbelievable. How could he die? He was only about 21, 22. It's ridiculous. So lots of things like that, I love all. You must have loads of things that stick in your head like that from when you were a kid. I remember walking across a piece of waste ground in Scotland, and Scotland were playing England at Hampden, and I met a bloke come the other way, and I said, "Do you know the result from Hampden?" He said, "Yes." He says, "England won 4-0. Bobby Charlton got a hat trick." And I thought, blimey. I mean, I was obviously disappointed we'd lost 4-0. Bobby Charlton.
Yeah.
Bobby Charlton. Bobby Charlton. I mean, just to watch that man run with the football, I just drool. His balance. It's just amazing. He was an artist, a dancer. And there are other players like that, of course. But he was my first one. Bobby Charlton. Still love him now.
Yeah. And this actually comes from a bit of personal observation of just your relationship with Stephen, is you fostered something. You mentioned the skiing and the golf, and he mentioned it as well. He also mentioned going to, you'll hear it because I will share the recording that I had with him, so you can hear all of what he said. But he was talking about the pool, the snooker. You play snooker together.
Oh,
You guys play
yes,
snooker.
yeah.
And then, he talks about going to the Leeds away games, which is
Yes,
hilarious.
yeah.
And then and even funnier, he laughed. I laughed because he said, "Yeah, I think you were his hero. He just followed you around. So you went to do these quiz nights with your Leeds
Yeah, that's
away
right.
fans,
Yeah,
and he said he used to come with you and just sit in the corner."
yeah, that's right.
Whilst you-
Well,
I think I don't know if you were doing the quiz or just getting it ready for the weekend. I don't know,
no,
but he said it was like,
I was part of the team, and you met all these supporters clubs, and they all liked Stephen. He was like the mascot. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
we
A
did
mascot.
do
Yeah.
that. And
Anyway,
probably the snooker. Go on, Ad, because you may not finish. Because I've got a story about the snooker.
tell me about the snooker, then I'll finish my rambling question.
All right. Well, we played snooker one night, and it is interesting. Again, it's an education. We had a good time, and Stephen had won as he usually did, even when he was younger, and he certainly does now. Anyway, he won 2-1, but he got lucky. It got really fluky last colour or whatever. And as we're driving home in the dark through one of the main thoroughfares of Sheffield, I'm driving and I'm kind of punching him on the arm, as you do, because he's won and he was jammy and a lucky bastard and all that kind of thing. Although I didn't use that word, but lucky so and so and so on. And as I was doing that, I went through an orange light and amber light, and I went through the next amber light, just getting there every time. And I think I maybe went through a third one because there's still this kind of banter back and forward. And the next thing I know, I look in the mirror and there's a police car and it's flashing the lights. Pull over.
Oh, no.
So I pulled over, and I put the windows down, and he said, "What's going on?" And because he thought there was violence going on in the car.
He could see the.
You could see all this, and he'd put two and two together and made five, and obviously had to explain to him, "No, this is my son," and we've just been playing snooker, and the jammy so and so he's just beaten me 2-1, so I've not got over it yet, and all this kind of thing. And so he was fine, and he let
Oh,
us
he's
go.
fine.
He checked the car out a little bit, and he let us go, and so on. But the interesting thing was the next day I'm in work, and I'm dealing with 19-year-old students. Largely immigrant students. And there was a boy in the class there who I quite liked and so on. And they asked me what I'd been doing the day before. That's what they were like. What did you? And I told them what I'd done. I got to play snooker with my son, and I told them what had happened. And you could see them all just go quiet. And then this lad spoke up, and he said, the police let you go with after all that. I said, yeah, we were just messing about. He says, they wouldn't let us go, They would never let us go. And I thought, you're absolutely right. They wouldn't have done, would they? There would have been something else going on, They wouldn't, even if it had been harmless. And I thought, interesting how they see things and see the police,
Yeah.
this ethnic minority or whatever. And it was a mixture of ethnic minorities, but they weren't white. That's the point. They weren't white, middle class, middle-aged men.
Yeah.
Completely
Yeah.
different attitude to it.
Yeah.
But the other funny thing about that was somehow in this conversation, I mentioned my son. So obviously the kids know my name's Turner, and I mentioned my son Stephen. And this same lad, he's turned around, he said, Stephen Turner. He said, Stephen Turner? I said, yes, that's my son. And he said, did you go to High Store School? I said, yes. He says, I know Stephen. They played in the same football team together. Oh, he's a great bloke, he's Stephen. He's a great lad, great lad. And after that, I never had a minute's problem with this whole class. He kept
Oh, wow.
the class
Ah,
in check. You don't
nice.
upset Mr. Turner because of Stephen, not because of me, because I was the father of Stephen Turner. Oh
You
dear
were
me!
lucky, yeah.
I got lucky. But
You got lucky. Yeah, he saved you.
yeah. Well, I mean, I could handle these kind of things, but it made it a very pleasant working environment with some very difficult people.
Mm.
When you're trying
Oh,
to
interesting.
educate them, very difficult.
I'm sure he won't know that.
These are
I'm sure
grown
he.
men. These are 19-year-olds that could certainly knock you about very easily if you didn't have the mental toughness to deal with them. They would look you.
Yeah.
They would test you out. They would look you directly in the eye. And to see who's going to blink first or who was going to make what kind of comment first. So you had to be on the ball with groups like that, really. But that was part and parcel of some of the classes that you had to deal with, When it always amuses me when they say, "Oh, teaching, it's not the real world," and all this kind of thing, it's etc. And I said, "Well, okay, yeah, just come and deal with this lot and tell me about the real world."
Yeah. It's the real world in a sort of heightened environment because you're put together and you have to make something happen. It's
Yeah,
sort
I
of,
mean, they meant working in the private sector, being at the mercy of market forces, that kind of thing, If you don't cut it, you're out. Whereas it was harder for people to be sacked and so on in the public sector. But there were other aspects of the job, as I've just explained, that had you on your toes, kept you on your toes, and dealing with real people and real issues.
So all these fun things you did as through the teenage years, and also university with golf, and you're still doing with golf and skiing now. Um, I just had this observation that I would say there's some dads, and this is just a binary, but it's not like this really. But some dads play the role of more of an enforcer role, so checking that you're from young age, like checking that you're doing well at school and your report cards, and that you're making good decisions and supporting you. And it's not always steely, but there's a sort of more authoritarian side of things. And then there's the sort of matey dads who just evolve and are just like, they have that adult relationship, which is almost like level to level. There's not a hierarchy of like I'm older and wiser, and you know. I don't know if I'm describing it well, but have always seen that you guys, and I've only really met you a couple of times before this, is that you have established that already like many years ago. And when you talked about the cricket club and sort of handing him over under the pastoral care of the cricket guys, that was an interesting question I asked if it was a conscious decision. It sounded like it really was.
Oh yeah.
I guess it's yeah. So my question, I guess, is was that just a natural evolution because that's who you are and that's how you wanted to hang out with your children and be that's just who you are. So there was no decision, or did you always plan to be okay? There's a certain point when he hits 15. I don't want to be. I just want to spend time as much time with him as possible. And the way to do that is just let him go.
What was that last bit again? When he hit 15?
Was there any sort of conscious moment where you thought, you know what, he's now an adult and I want to be an adult with an adult now. I don't need to be a parent and an adult.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I don't think it was quite adult to adult yet, but it was close.
Still not now, no.
Yeah. Well, there is a difference actually, because I remember my father saying to my mother, and he would probably only be in his early 50s, and he said, well, we'll let the boys take over now. We had grown up, we were men, we were the head of the family and all that kind of thing. We'll let the lads take over now. And my mother agreed with that and so on. And I was surprised because about that, why he was like that. Now I'm not like that. I don't take that view at all. Stephen obviously is a very independent bloke doing extremely well and so on, but there's no way I'm saying we'll let him take over. We do our bit in the family, but we do it on a kind of level way. It's not a matter of all of a sudden I've become too old, and now I pass the baton to somebody else. Sod that for a game of soldiers. I've still got the baton as far as I'm concerned. But with obviously great respect to both Stephen and Laura, Lisa, Leon, and so on. They're all very good and very successful people and so on. But I'm not ready to pass any baton over. But my father was.
Yeah, I think it was more. Maybe I need to articulate it better. I think if my dad was still around now, it's a very peer-to-peer conversation. He would ask me, is there anything you need from me? How can I help? But there'd also be like an advice level, which it should be because he knows he would experience more life than me. But it seems from the outside that you guys are just like mates. Like you have love spending time with each other, playing golf and skiing, which is awesome.
Yeah,
but it's not that kind of. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, I do. But I am conscious that I don't want to be too matey. I don't think Stephen wants me to be too matey either. So there is a kind of invisible dividing line that sometimes you cross and you regret that you said something or whatever. There are many things that I talk to my friends about, adult friends, my age, that I wouldn't talk in that way to Stephen. I just would not talk in that way or about those particular things with Stephen, and certainly not with Laura. No, I think there is. There is still a thing in a relationship of what a son expects of a father, what a father expects of a son, until the day you die, or But but other than that, it is pretty close like that, and that was kind of natural thing. That's what I wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah, very much so.
that's great. That's
Um,
great. Okay, well, I'm going to jump into the quick fire, and then I've got a final question at the end, which is just a nice rounding question, I think. So, are you ready
okay.
for some quick fire? First question is wine or beer?
Beer.
Any specific beer?
Well, just a good beer. That's all. Not like the old rubbish beers that we used to drink and so on. But no. There are many good beers now. But it'll
A
be on
bitter,
the.
a lager, a stout? Are we
No, no.
which
I
one?
see what you mean. Oh no, bitter. A
Okay,
pint. I would
yeah,
always ask for a pint of bitter.
that would be your order.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. And the only thing I'd look at was the strength of the bitter. I always said I'd go about 4% strength. I don't want anything more than that, particularly. But definitely beer. It's back to amber ale, Neil.
yeah. You got to find it. You got to dig it out. Okay, what is your favorite cuisine? I'm going to give you a list: British barbecue, if that is a cuisine; Italian, Turkish, Chinese, curry, or other.
British, I think. Yeah, British. I'll go with
Yeah,
British. I'll,
that's what Stephen said.
yeah, yeah. I like an Indian meal every now and again, but I'm not. Yeah, British.
Okay, your favorite sport overall, considering everything, watching, playing, doing, just the most enjoyment you get from which
Oh,
sport?
well, that's a really good question. That is. Um, oh, well, of course, it's changed over your lifetime, hasn't it? I well, skiing. Skiing. I absolutely adore it. I just adore it. I have done ever since I first put skis on. It's just the best. One of the best sounds in the world to me is that click when you put your boot into a ski.
Ah, okay.
It is the most fantastic sound.
I thought you were
Uh,
going to say the snow when you turn, the sort of
no,
the calming.
I probably don't turn like you.
You just go straight down. No.
Not quite, no. But that is a
Uh,
good sound. But
okay.
it's when you first get there and it's a good cold morning, frosty and everything else. It's got that smell in the air, and you
Yeah,
throw your skis onto the snow, faff about a little bit, get your foot ready, click in, click the other one, boom, magic.
that's
You're in
great.
magic world.
I'll think of you next time I do that.
Well,
For
yeah.
sure, for sure, for sure.
I sometimes go to sleep in the winter dreaming about skiing, of course, going down runs and things, and I will dream of clicking into the skis. I will before I fall asleep think about right from the beginning of the day to the end of the run. It gives me a lot of pleasure. So anyway, skiing and obviously golf. I enjoy golf very much, especially if Stephen's around. But I enjoy golf very much, although it is extremely frustrating game, the hardest game I've ever played. It's so technical, but yeah, I do enjoy golf. But obviously, particularly when you're playing pretty well. The buzz I just said about clicking into skis. If you do catch hold of a really good drive, and in fact, the other day I hit a drive 264 yards. That was to the middle of the green, which is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I know it's phenomenal for somebody my age and so on, but what a buzz I got from that.
What a
Jeez,
feeling.
I drove
Yeah.
the green. It was a par four. And the reason it was only 264 yards was because there was a bunker in front. And I took a chance and I bounced over the bunker.
You
Uh,
went for it.
I went for it. I
Today's
mean,
my day. You thought, come on, John. Today's my
absolutely,
day.
absolutely. And I really, in fact, that day I drove like a dream. It was just one of those days. Anyway, so golf is very close to that,
It was a close second.
but skiing because it's the mountains, it's the atmosphere, it's because it's not something I can do very often in my own country.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I think your son was spot on there. He said skiing. Then overall, he said skiing. What do you have a favorite film?
I like The Godfather 1 and 2 very much. I
Your
watch
son
that.
knows you so well.
I'm,
It's exactly what he said.
I watch that all the time. If I come across that when I'm surfing, I just stop and watch it. I know the
Really?
line. I know the lines. I know the. In fact, if I'm
Amazing.
having a conversation with people and somehow the sentence starts as it's in The Godfather, I'll complete whatever they said in The Godfather, and they look at me as if I've gone out. I just have to try and do it in a heavy Italian accent. um, I like westerns a lot, which dates me considerably. But even comedy westerns like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is really, really terrific. I just thought that was an amazing film. That goes back to the 60s. Um, um, there are one or two musicals. This might surprise you. We may not know this, but I like the musical Cabaret a lot. Liza Minnelli's Cabaret. Um, those are three that spring to mind. There are other films that I like. The war films, the Dam Busters, stuff like that. The Dam Busters I do like. It was 1955, and it's about a raid on German dams, and it's a black and white. And when these Lancaster bombers take off late at night, early hours of the morning, it's still moonlight, and these Lancasters are taking off and powering ahead like a dog straining at the leash. They are real warriors going into battle. It sends an absolute shiver down my spine, even to this day, to see these Lancasters. They can't wait to get at the enemy. And they're going to their death. 8 out of these planes didn't come back. Oh, what people, what human beings. I'm a million miles away from people like that. And so just a scene like that, it's just wonderful direction, wonderful photography. And it just, as I say, gives me goosebumps even now.
That's great. I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one. Okay, favorite band, musical
Ah,
group,
yeah, I understand. Well, obviously the
or
Beatles.
artist? Sorry, I meant to
Yeah,
say.
no, yeah,
Say
obviously the Beatles, uh, right up there, if not the favorite band. Bit later on, Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, I like Jimi Hendrix a lot. Yeah, that was
yeah,
and
that blew my mind when I first heard it.
yeah, well, I was very fortunate in 1970. I went to the Isle of Wight festival with well, it was a different girlfriend, but anyway, we went together. I think you had to go to things like that with a girl, really. And it was in the Isle of Wight, as I just said, end of August, 4 days of glorious weather. Glorious weather. You could just sleep under the stars, which we did. We did have a tent, of course. And we just saw every band imaginable from around the world over those 4 days. You're listening to the Doors at 2 o'clock in the morning and from your tent and so on. And so the Doors were good. I like their music. Yeah, I really like their music as well. So yeah, and Hendrix
Awesome.
came on. I don't know what time. I still Google it on YouTube now if I can find it, just to
Yeah,
see
I'm
him
gonna have a look at
playing
that.
all along the Watchtower at the Isle of Wight. Just
Can't imagine seeing that
well,
live.
well, I mean, we were just crazy. There was a pal of mine at university. As I said earlier about the flat was shared and so on, and he was mad keen. And sometimes if we had nothing better to do, people used to wear the headscarves and they used to wear scarves here and so on. And we used to play bloody air guitar for an hour. Just listening to Hendrix or listening to the Doors, just jumping up and down on the bed or something like this, just shouting our heads off, singing our heads off, playing air guitar. Uh, and that hasn't changed. I don't know if you've ever heard Freebird by Leonard Skinner. Fantastic guitar riff. And I'm seeing signs. I don't know, you might see it, seen signs in Kurt, because he maybe moved on from Kurt Cobain. Seeing signs in
Yeah,
Kurt, might see it in Arnie. Seeing signs of it in Harry. That they really like to rock with when the music's heavy and hard and fast and so on. So I can't wait to introduce them to Leonard Skinner, because the riff, when it starts and it really takes off, you just can't keep still. It's brilliant. So I hope I'm around for that
yeah,
when they
yeah,
take
yeah,
on for
yeah.
that.
Do you have a favorite writer?
Um, well, I've always been more of a fan of factual stuff than fiction. I read a lot when I was a kid. I don't know why, you just do it. Well, it's part, again, the radio. We did then get TV in the 60s, so that did dominate. But I read all the boys' books, Treasure Island, The Man in the Iron Mask, the Three Musketeers, those kind of books. I read all the time, but also factual books. I don't know if I mentioned it the other day, but a book called Affable Savages, which I liked a lot when I was a kid. Anthropological stuff, you know. But I prefer fact to fiction. But there are certain Dickens books, however, I do like. Um, A Tale of Two Cities, I like very much, and I do reread bits of that. Orwell, 1984, I've read that many times, and I like that. So, you know, I wouldn't say they're my favorite writers. They were good books. At one time, I liked Tolkien. It was a trendy thing at university, and so everybody read Tolkien, etc. I suppose, but I did quite like that.
Newspaper of choice.
Well, the Times. That's what I read now. The Times. Yeah, I do have other things. I still like to get Private Eye. To get you know, a kind of not left wing, a left field way of looking at things. You know, no, not left wing, but and there are a couple of other kind of more satirical things that I will buy if I'm in a car in a shop. But for the general day-to-day stuff, I still get a Times delivered. And in actual fact, despite the fact that it is probably by naturally a pro-conservative newspaper, they have many writers in it that are across the political spectrum. So it's a good balance. You know, it's easy enough to figure out who the Tory ones are, who the Lib ones are, who the Labour ones are. So, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, so I have a chunter at whatever I'm reading. So I think it's a
Yeah.
good balanced the Times, far better than the Telegraph, which is out and out
Yeah.
Tory.
Do you have a favourite colour?
Purple, purple. Maybe
Did
I
you
don't know. I don't know.
did you used to have purple spectacles?
Did I? No. Did I say purple spectacles? No.
No, you said purple, but I feel like when I met you, you had colourful spectacles, and I remember them being purple.
No.
But they're not
Well.
the ones you had
No.
last week, weren't?
No. These are not purple, but
No, dark. No.
I
Okay.
don't think.
No,
No, I see what you mean. I don't really have a favourite colour.
no,
Stephen might have
I
said
thought
something. I
he said
mean,
white. I mean, it's just
well,
quite a funny one because it's something you never think about, and then when you ask a sort of 70-year-old man, it's quite funny.
yeah.
Or maybe
Well, I
something.
might have said white or yellow because of the football connection, and that did
That's why he said white because of
that that
Leeds.
that,
That's why I
that
said
did
white.
cross my mind to say white or yellow. But I think it's Olivia that's got me going on about purple. So I've changed. But that's not a big deal to me. Color. Um,
No. Where's your happy place?
oh, well, in terms of people, just thinking about anybody in the family, when they send through photographs of the grandchildren, I enter a happy place straight away, straight away, and I look at that all. I look at my phone and the kids all all the time, all the time, and that's one of the big pluses of a mobile phone. And you know, I do that at any time, but if you're stuck somewhere waiting for a bus or a train or the dentist, it's great, and you can look at the kids. So that's in terms of people. That's just wonderful, really, the family. In terms of a happy place, and obviously it will be Selkirk in Scotland. I go there in my mind a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot. Um, but I've got lots of happy places because I've had lots of happy times. The Lake District, I know the Lake District at the back of my hand. I've walked there for years, and that's a wonderful place, the Lake District. If you like walking, it's a wonderful place. It's a bit busy, too many people, all that stuff. But once you get into the hills, just knockout.
Lovely. Do you have a celebrity crush?
Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
Marilyn. Stephen must have said Marilyn. He must have said Marilyn.
He didn't. He faltered, and then he instead came up with the memory about watching Baywatch with you.
Baywatch? No, not at all. He's got that wrong. No, it's without 100% Marilyn. Oh no. There's a video clip I still watch just goes to show what a bloody pervert I am. And she's coming down the staircase with another actress, Marilyn blonde, the other actress dark haired, in these silky, slinky dresses, and absolutely just. I mean, as a straight guy, these two women and Marilyn in particular, blood sand. if you've got red blood in you, you just cannot help but think, Jesus, these are bloody goddesses. I don't know what they were like as people. You just forget all that side of it, don't
No,
you?
no,
You
that
just
wasn't
look
the
at what's
question.
in
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
And she's absolutely, and there are many pictures of her, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there were some wonderfully beautiful actresses in those days, but Marilyn, well, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
number one. Okay, favorite flavor ice cream.
Vanilla. Really boring, that one is. Vanilla. Straight in vanilla. Very rarely have anything else.
Is there one that you don't like?
Oh, rum. Anything to do with rum is blood and oh God. That's because that was one of the first things I got really ill on. Did I talk about this last time?
No, but your son did. It's amazing. He's like, this is exactly what he said. That's why I
Yeah.
asked it. This is great.
I can't even stand the smell of rum and butter sweets. If
Mm,
anybody offers me one, I just walk away because you know it's obviously alcoholic poisoning.
yeah, yeah,
15
yeah,
years of age at somebody's house, parents out. You just go through the drinks cupboard, drink anything, everything, sick as a dog.
yeah.
A lot of it was dark rum, not light rum, but dark rum, and oh, just unbelievably dreadful. But they were great days. We recovered, and
Yeah.
15, 16, 17, 18, the parties were unbelievable. It was the first
Mm.
time one of my pals, I'm seeing him next week, and that expression about people being green around the gills. Have you heard that expression when they have had too much alcohol? They're green around the gills. I knew the expression. What the hell does that mean? Until actually one time I saw it in my friend. We had drunk so much over so many days, he was green. He was green around. He was green around the gills. It was unbelievable. Uh, but I've you know, I continued with all that boozing like you lot have probably until I was about 40, and I remember when I realised that to kind of stop and get under control because my brother-in-law, one of my brother-in-laws, I had a few of them played golf together. They were all older than me. I was the kind of pup in the group. They were great fun to be around. Uncle Ray, Uncle Kevin, Uncle Barry, Uncle Jack, but God, could they drink? Jesus Christ, they were dangerous company, and they smoked like troopers. Yeah, that's right. And we golfed together. But uh, so a couple of them came over to Sheffield, and I took them out for the night. And we got in about 4 o'clock in the morning. I hardly remember where I took them to. And Ray always said he never ever recovered from that weekend in Sheffield. He was like 50 or something, late 40s, and his drinking began to tail off, and mine certainly did. You know, I'm not going through that again. That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. But
That was the peak. That was your Everest.
yeah, yeah, well, it nearly destroyed him. They're never the same again after that, you know. And they could, my goodness me, but they were such good company. Stephen remembers those uncles very fondly, I'm sure.
Yeah, but what is your favorite season and why?
Winter skiing.
Okay. If you could travel back in time, where would you go to? I'm thinking more of like a historical moment in time because you're interested in that.
All right, good question. You're not talking about family now.
No,
Not talking about family. We're talking about
like an era that you
yeah,
just
an
wanted to
epoch.
experience
Yeah, that's right, an epoch.
again. You might want to experience it again, or you never before your time.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting one, that isn't it? Well, I certainly wouldn't want it to be the first half of the 20th century. That's for sure.
The thing is that all the interesting parts are terrible, terrible times in the world, like the world wars. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
you want to see it because you're interested, but you wouldn't want to live in it. So maybe.
No, I think I am attracted a little bit by the Belle Epoque, which was the decade or so before the First World War. You know, the calm before the storm type thing, Neil. And if you had money, I mean, all of these eras are predicated on the fact that you're well off.
Yeah.
There is no good time if you're poor. That's for sure. And you didn't live very long. But if you're well off, I think that was a beautiful time.
Mm.
And just before that, it molds into the impressionist type days. You know, the paintings, the impressionists, and so
Yes.
on. That kind of time. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I've got some
Very
time
good.
for. There's a
Very
great
good.
Woody Allen film about that, the Belle Epoque. A great Woody Allen
Okay.
film about Paris. You
Okay.
might have reservations about Woody Allen, but I like Woody Allen. I like his films, and And this is a beautifully produced film.
One last quick fire question, and then a final closing one. If you had a dinner where you don't have to cook, but you can cook if you want, and you can add that layer in, but you have a dinner and you get to choose three guests. They could be dead, alive, they could be famous, they could be family members. Who do you have around the table? And you can think about the dynamics of the table, but you can also disregard them.
Well, I think I'd exclude the family from this. That would be a kind of separate thing, really. I'd rather look at it from the point of view of uh, uh, yeah, of other people. Yeah, the family thing is a bit difficult,
Yeah, just leave that aside. It's like,
especially the immediate family.
yeah,
Uh, um,
like Jimi Hendrix. Would you want to ask him how
oh
he,
yeah, yeah.
or something like that?
Well, when you get outside the family, then it would be it'd certainly be Marilyn.
Of course.
Absolutely. In fact, just Marilyn.
Yeah.
So sort anybody else.
We don't need the other chairs, thanks.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not bothered. I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste time cooking, so I'd buy it in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we could just dance all night.
Okay.
So no, definitely Marilyn. I don't think he would be, because you've got to think of people that would be interesting company, really. Oh, dear me. Right, no, maybe when
It's maybe Marilyn. I like that. I like that. Just
yeah,
cut it there.
maybe yeah, maybe when we talk or share this
Yeah,
again, I
yeah,
might have thought of two others,
yeah. It's a tough one.
but nobody springs to mind that I
Okay,
want to spend time like that with. I mean, there are great people, but they're not necessarily nice people.
okay. This is a thinker as well. If you could make a billboard in Leicester Square for people to walk past and look at for a day, what would be the message you would write?
Oh well, I think you could guess what's going to come. It would be love your family, love your friends, stay close. And part of that is because the alternative is loneliness. And that is it's maybe not something that kills you. It's just very, very sad.
Mm,
So yeah, but there are so many good things about love your family, love your friends, stay close. And I've worked hard all my life doing that.
mm.
That's why I've
Yeah.
got friends that I'm going to be meeting up with next week. We don't see each other every week. We don't text every week, but we just do keep in touch and bump into each other and so on, and take the opportunity when we can. And yeah, and we're certainly with family. And what I would like to see in the future? Well, it's very simple ambition. I've seen Stephen and Laura grow up. That was amazing. I just hope I can see my grandchildren grow up and know it, and know that they're growing up, not dementia. See them grow up and know they can grow up. And if I can help those grandchildren, there was a question about that somewhere else, so the role of granddad. If I can help them to be safe and healthy and happy, just like Stephen, what could be a better achievement? Not for me. That's it.
Lovely.
Well,
Lovely.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
No. Thank you for all your time. This has been most enjoyable.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Just been wonderful. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers, John.
Bye bye.